If you want to create an online business and you're not sure what it takes to build a thriving personal brand, then you want to keep those earbuds on, my friends, and enjoy this special interview with Mike Kim here on the Resilient Faith Online podcast. Welcome. I'm Marissa Shadrick, host of the Resilient Faith Online Show. I'm a digital strategist and certified copywriter, but more importantly, a woman of faith. In this podcast, you'll find a biblical perspective to the external and internal challenges we face as online content creators. Join me for some inspiration and practical tips as we let our faith shape our work to create positive change online. To connect with our private Facebook group of faith-based online entrepreneurs, go to marissashadrick.com/faith. Hello, everyone. I am so excited today. I have such a special guest. Hello, Mike Kim. Would you say hello to
Hi,
everyone?
Marissa. It is great to be here. Great to be with you who are listening. I hope to add value to people today,
Oh, I
just
know you will.
try to be helpful.
Yes, no, I know you will. Let me share a little bit about Mike. I first really heard Mike speak at Franklin, Tennessee. And Mike, I don't know if you know this or not, but you were speaking on stage at the Ray Edwards Copywriting Academy. And I was so impressed with what you had to share. You were just so approachable. It just seemed like I was just listening to a friend when I was listening to you on stage. But Mike Kim, of course, is a speaker. He is a brand strategist for business thought leaders and coaches and authors who want to create impact with their ideas and get their message heard. I love it. He is a sought after speaker. He's an online educator and consultant for top thought leaders alike. And you'll recognize some of these names like John Maxwell, Donald Miller. And his clients also include New York Times bestselling authors and experts on PBS, CNN, Fox, and it goes on and on. He has been featured and written for Entrepreneur Magazine, Huffington Post, and he has his own top rated podcast called The Brand You Podcast. He has spoken as an industry leader in events like Social Media Marketing World, Tribe, Podcast Movement, and so forth. And he's also been a guest on podcasts as well, like Smart Passive Income, Marketing Made Simple, and Read to Lead. And today we're going to talk about his upcoming book, You Are the Brand, the 8-Step Blueprint to Showcase Your Unique Expertise and Build a Highly Profitable, Personally Fulfilling Business. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Marissa. Thank you for that warm introduction. Again, really glad to be here. It's been a few years since that Franklin event, but here we are, and life moves forward, and good things have happened, and good things are going to happen for everybody here on this call, I believe. So I'm just happy to be here with you.
Yes, I'm happy too. Tell me, I'm always interested to hear what motivates people to put out the energy and the focus for a project like this, like a book. Can you tell us what inspired you to write the book? Was it the pandemic and you were inside, so you decided to write?
No, I feel at home here because, we have the same faith. So I can be a little bit more, frank about it.
Absolutely.
In that regard. It's funny, people will sometimes ask me, what compels you to create? And of course I want to help people. And of course I want to create impact with my ideas and get the message heard. But at the core of it, I do it because it's who I was created to be. And it is something that I carry and I've been given to carry and to steward. And I'm just supposed to create something. And if I don't, I feel like I'm not living up to my potential or the gifts or abilities and experiences I've been given. One of the most powerful quotes I've ever heard is one of the greatest gifts God can give you is your potential. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest gifts you can give back is to actually fulfill it.
Yes.
And so while I do love writing for my audience and to help people and to help everyday business owners, I actually look at my books or, things that I've done in the past. I used to do music when I was on staff at church. And I always look back at these things and say, I created this and it is true to my creative nature and the gifts God has given me. And that is what allows me to kind of sleep at night to be honest. So that's the deeper reason why. And of course, as layers get removed, it's I want to help people. I want to make it practical. I want to make it accessible and easy. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just honoring what God has given me. And I think we
Mhm.
should all do that. I think the world is better when we all do that.
I agree. I couldn't agree more because we've been given gifts for a reason, right? And if we can help somebody out there, even if it's one or two people, but on the internet, we can reach so many more. That is a good day when we can do that. So, absolutely, I can't
Hmm.
agree more. So, there are probably some false assumptions or mistakes when that maybe you've seen when it comes to developing a personal brand. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, this phrase personal branding gets thrown around a lot these days. And when I started out in business as a solopreneur, I focused on personal brands 7, 8 years ago. And Marissa, to be honest, people are like, no one knows what that is, Mike. You should be more specific. No one knows what that is. And here we are all these years later. Now everyone's throwing the word around. So first, when I talk about a personal brand, branding is all about identity. You and I know this, the listener, you know this. Branding is all about identity. It's when, farmers used to brand their livestock, right? And
Mhm.
burn literally an identifying mark onto their cattle. Only later on did it start to expand into business and identifying business concepts. Probably the first guy who did this was an English potter named Josiah Wedgwood in the 1700s, and this guy won this pottery competition put on by Queen Charlotte. And after he won, he called all his pottery Queensware, and he was like the first modern marketer, right? Or the father of modern marketing, and he created free shipping and money back guarantees. It's fascinating, some of the stuff that you learn when you dig through this. But branding is really all about identity. And when we talk about a personal brand, that expands into our ideas, our expertise, our reputation, and our personality. That's what a personal brand is a combination of all of those things. Now, what's happened in recent years, especially with social media, Instagram, YouTube, I've seen much more of a trend towards image-based personal branding.
Mm.
And these folks who are presenting a false version of themselves, I'm going to be really extreme, but this happens in varying degrees. Um, they rent a mansion on Airbnb, pretend like it's their house, and stage a photo shoot. And that's just
Oh.
weird, you know? And these folks don't understand that attention is earned. It's not owed to you. You
Hmm.
have to earn it. Now, there are some lesser degrees of that where people say fake it till you make it, and they present this false version of themselves and ultimately catches up with them. Then you have the flip side where there are folks who overshare in the name of authenticity, and they're like, oh, we're going to just be real and we're going to be authentic. And it's like, Marissa, they're selling their struggles,
Mm.
and they get this attention like the way a car wreck would get attention on the highway. Sure, the whole highway slows down and everyone looks at the accident, but you can't build a community around it. You can't build a following around it. It's just a disturbance.
Hmm.
And so the question I pose to everyone is, when you're building a brand, a personal brand, when you're sharing your ideas, your content, ask yourself this simple question: can I build a campfire around it? And what I mean by that is it warm? Is it inviting? Is it a place where stories can be exchanged? Is it a place where communities can gather? Is it a place of hope in darkness? Right? That's what a real personal brand is. That's the kind of authenticity people are looking for. And so when you look at some of these followings, these gurus, these experts, these micro influencers, even like myself, they work not because we just share and vomit our struggles everywhere. It's because we truly build a place where people can gather, feel welcome, feel at home. And honestly, we become people who people want to be around. That's
Right.
really the litmus test.
Right. It attracts. It attracts.
Hmm.
That is so well said. I love the campfire analogy because it's I remember things in pictures. So when I think of a campfire, it is a warm, inviting atmosphere where you want to join in, sit down on a log, talk, tell stories, get to know people. It's relaxing, it's comfortable, and it's fun. So I love that analogy. I'm not going to forget that. So here's something that I run into a lot. What would you say to people who feel they aren't brand worthy? Maybe the opposite. Maybe they have some insecurities. What's the best way for them to figure out what skills or experiences they could turn into or possibly turn into a business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I get this question quite often as well. People say, I don't want to be the brand. I don't want to be out front. I don't want to be visible. That's actually not the point. The reality is you already have a brand.
Mm.
It's your reputation. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. I've heard people say all these different definitions of branding. I think Jeff Bezos many years ago said, branding is what they say about you when you're not in the room. And I would update that now to 2021 and say, branding is what people say about you before you even get in the room.
Ah,
And
very
if
good.
people aren't talking about you before you get in the room, you don't really have an identity. This world is too noisy. Everybody has a brand, so you might as well have a better one. It's your reputation. It's what your friends say about you. It's what your colleagues say about you. It's what your clients say about you. It's your reputation. Now, to that end, when we're looking at skills that we can possibly develop and turn into a business, uh, this exercise really helped me. And I don't know where this came. Maybe this is like one of these downloads from God or something, right? And I looked at every job I ever held after high school. And for a while, I was teaching SATs to after school, after school academy. Excuse me. I had been on staff at church as the worship pastor of a church in Connecticut for 4 years, and then I went on to become the chief marketing officer of that same educational company I used to work for before the church job. And Marissa, I didn't just write down what was on my job description. I wrote down what I actually really did. And I noticed, sure, according to my job description, there were things like I spoke at church, I taught high school students, I hosted conferences, I marketed our worship albums. But then there were also other soft skills, like I recruited volunteers, I had to teach at workshops, I had to mentor people, and all of these things. And I looked at this list of things on this sheet of paper, and I don't know what compelled me. I just looked at it. I was like, I took my pen and I just crossed out the end of every sentence. And what I saw was I I speak, I write, I market, I host conferences, I mentor, I recruit, and I can't overstate how big of an impact this was to me at the time. It was like I saw myself for the first time,
Yeah.
because we tend to see ourselves primarily through the organization or company we work for, and we fail to see ourselves. I mean, when people ask you, who are you? Well, I'm a recruiter at Fresh Direct. That's what we say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a this, I'm a that, but we don't really understand what we carry and who we really are. And so when I saw those statements staring back at me, I felt like I saw myself for the first time. So I started to say over and over, I am a speaker, I'm a writer. It doesn't matter where I go, I'm a speaker. It doesn't matter what industry I'm in, I can write. It doesn't matter what niche I niche down into, I can market. And that really helped me change the story I was telling myself about who I was.
Yes, I love that. I saw that in the book where you just crossed out the last part of it. And it's exactly what you need to do for your online business. So we do tend to keep our skill sets or experience within the context of what we're doing at the present moment. We don't see how it can translate into something else, but oftentimes it can, and we limit ourselves. So that's
Mm.
awesome. I love that. So here, when the message clarity is another thing that comes up often that people struggle with, and perhaps maybe in this exercise that you did, it could help people, but it's so important. How do you help brands and businesses or leaders find message clarity?
The first place it really starts, the foundational place it starts, is just having a point of view. And that sounds so crazy, but so many of us have had our point of view beaten out of us over time.
Yeah.
By that, I mean, you're not even allowed to express what you think. You have to fall in line with the company, with the organization, dare I even say the ministry you serve under, right? A lot of folks I work with in trying to help them develop their personal brand business, the folks who struggle the most are folks who come from highly regulated industries: education, law, finance, healthcare, politics. It's like anytime people from those industries say a little bit something a little bit out of line, they get their wrist slapped, right? There's this great word, compliance, right?
Right.
They have to check with legal to
Hmm.
make sure that it's okay. And then you get in onto the internet where it's the wild wild west and people can say whatever they want, and you quickly find, Marissa, that many of us have had that muscle of self-expression atrophy greatly over the years. So if you're starting a pizza shop and you're really passionate about pizza, I'm pretty sure you have an opinion about how pizza should taste. You're
Hmm.
probably not just doing it for the money. I mean, yes, maybe, but you're probably like, well, those guys down there, down the street, they're doing it wrong. It doesn't taste good. And you have a consultant or a coach or a marketing consultant or any kind of business who has a message, there's clearly a reason that you have an opinion about something. You just have to dig for it. So what I do is I ask people three simple questions: what pisses you off? What breaks your heart? What's the big problem you're trying to solve? And those are strange questions, but they get to the root of the issue, because if you don't share your message and your business isn't stemming from the core of who you are, people are going to be able to tell. So I
Hmm.
ask them those three questions, and it's always very insightful what happens when people really dig. Because, it's strange, but a lot of folks, no one's even asked them that.
Yeah.
No one's asked them what they really feel, and to hold space for them and give that opportunity for them to share and discover can actually be very, very emotional and groundbreaking.
Yeah. I love you shared that in the book, and I love your mom stories. I just started laughing. It was so funny because you shared that one story about the Thanksgiving where you had your family, and it was one of the things that pissed you off, right? Do you want to tell a little bit about that story? Give them kind of a sneak peek into it?
Yeah. So, I was working this great marketing job. I was the chief marketing officer of this company just outside New York City. I was making six figures, corner office, you name it. And I was hosting Thanksgiving at my condo. And it's the first time I ever hosted Thanksgiving. So I was really into this. It's like, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. My mom came, my stepfather came, my sister and her husband came. And so this was going to be a lot of fun. And then I get an email in the evening saying, we need you to come to work tomorrow, which was Black Friday. And that really upset me because, first, I was putting in 60 hours a week at the company anyway. Second, we weren't a retail company. We weren't opening on Black Friday at 4 in the morning. And third, I spent the entire evening staying up with my mom till like 2 in the morning, 2 in the morning, having wine and drinking Korean alcohol. And she's telling me all these stories about when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And Marissa, it was priceless. And I thought to myself, what if I get in a car accident? What if this is the last night that I ever get to spend doing something like this? Why do I have to go in on this pointless day to work?
Hmm.
And I left my family at my house. I'm like, see, I got to go to work. That sucked, to be honest. That stunk. I hated that.
Yeah.
And it motivated me like nothing else. I remembered that day, and I used that as leverage and motivation to power my way through.
Yeah. And so many people just kind of put up with it or they try to deal with it and they're not happy and they're dealing with this month after month, year after year when there are other possibilities. And your book is so thorough. You have the 8-point blueprint in there. You even have templates on how to write a profile on LinkedIn. There's just so many resources there. And as someone said, it's not a book that you read, it's one that you can study. So there's so much value in the book itself. So I think this book will bring hope to people that are in that kind of cycle of going to a work that they really hate, trying to figure out, what are my skill sets? How can I start something online? So this is really a gift for people. So it's awesome.
Well, thank you. And that is in large part why I wrote it the way that I did, because when I was going through those similar transitions in my career, I've shared a little bit about the transitions in my career, and I've transitioned careers like 3 times in just a number of short years. I was working at church on staff as the worship director there, as the music director of the church. Then I switch and I go to lead the company in their marketing, an educational company. And then less than 2 years after that, I left the company and became my own boss. That's a lot of transition in just 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized, Marissa, is that where we get hung up is we think that if we just have the right plan, everything's going to fall into place. But you and I know it's all about your mindset and how you
Mm-hmm.
see yourself and starting to challenge the stories and narratives that you've been living with, challenge the loops that you've been in, the cycles that keep
Mm-hmm.
replaying in your mind. And I remember a very distinct time. I didn't share this in the book. He's in the book plenty, but there was a guy that I found online named Michael Hyatt, and he was my early online mentor. And I really liked Michael's content. I can't tell you how I found him. I probably just Googled how to blog and he probably came up. But I joined one of his early programs and I invested. I viewed it as an investment, not as an expense. I viewed it as an investment. And I said, if I work hard at this, I can control the return on my investment because I'm fully in control of that.
Yeah.
So, what I did there was show up on the actual monthly calls. I couldn't understand why people would sign up for something and not show up. I just really didn't understand it. So I showed up on this one call and I asked him that question while I was working, in between these stages. And he asked me, well, Mike, what is exciting you more, to do more ministry stuff or to do the consulting? Which is scarier?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the consulting. And he's like, then go do it. That's all I need, just a little nudge. Boop. And I went. Right. And it was incredible to kind of see now when I was writing my book what that journey was like 7 or 8 years ago. And I realized it had nothing to do with my message or my website or my copy yet. It had everything to go on with go to do with what was going on inside my head and inside my heart and in the way that I saw myself.
Isn't that amazing? I've noticed that in myself. There was a lot of things I had to untangle in my mind to even move forward when it came to public speaking, when it came to writing, when it came to getting certification for the copywriting, for all of it. And it really does start here. And that's why I say your work is an extension of who you are. If who you are is not right and there's something off and you're replaying these old tunes that are saying you're not worthy or you don't have talents or skills, those are the things you've got to just get rid of, yeah, and reframe it a different way. Absolutely, I agree. Wow. So in the book also you say that relationships are rocket ships. How did you build such a strong network of connections with influential people? I'm sure a lot of people think, well, if I just know the right people, if I just have a break, and get to somebody that's high profile, it'll all be easy and gravy.
Yeah. First, I will say relationships are rocket ships. Like there are no lone rangers
Yeah.
in this business. We all need each other. So if you feel like you're just going to be an introverted, and I'm an introvert, but you're going to lock yourself into the closet and sit behind a keyboard all day and build a business, it's not going to work. You're at some point you're going to have to connect with people. You can't do it alone. The thing I love about entrepreneurship is it brings out the best in you, but it also forces you to face some of the rougher parts of you.
Yeah.
I so people are surprised sometimes when I tell them I'm an introvert. They're like, "Wait, what?" And
I'm
I'm
an
like, "No, I
introvert
just
too.
worked at it. Yeah, I worked at it. I worked
Yeah.
at connecting with people. I kind of quote unquote batch my socializing when I go to these events. I can turn it on for 3 days and then I've got to crash. But at the end of the day, we're all people. And that's how I saw influential people. And part of this, Marissa, was probably because of my church experience.
Hmm.
I learned very early on not to put people on a pedestal.
Hmm.
I met a lot of influential pastors, ministry leaders, you name it. And at the end of the day, they were just as insecure, if not more, than regular people were. They
Hmm.
were just as concerned and had just as many fears as other people did. And so I learned really quickly early on people are just people. They may have a bigger platform, they may have a higher profile. It doesn't always mean that they're a better or healthier person,
Hmm.
to be
Yeah.
honest. So I just looked at people as if they were people. And when I did that, I asked myself, well, what would someone like Michael Hyatt, who I just mentioned, what would he want? What does he ultimately want? He's putting himself out on a limb here, starting these different programs. He doesn't have a mentor. He doesn't any. He's a pioneer in the space. What would he want? Well, of course, he wants customers. He wants clients. I can't give him any. My following is too small. I don't have a following, but I can be his client. And then what else does he want? He wants testimonials. He wants success stories, and I can be one of those. And so what I started to do very early on was see how I could become someone's best case study.
That's wonderful.
And I just joined his program, did better than a lot of people, made sure that he knew I was doing the work. He knew
Right.
me from these calls and everything like that. And I noticed out of the thousands of people that joined his program, 997 of them didn't do anything. So I was like, great. Instead of one of a million of his Twitter followers or one of 1,000 of people in his program, now I'm one of three who are actually doing something.
Yeah.
And he took notice and he shared my content with his audience. He would promote my blog posts. And in that sense, I was actually being positioned by him in a higher level. And people started taking notes. Who's this Mike Kim guy that Michael Hyatt keeps tweeting his articles about? I just said to myself, if I write something that's worth a guy of his caliber reading and sharing, I can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I just challenged myself in that way. Then I looked for other opportunities where there were smaller groups to join. I joined mastermind groups. Ray Edwards was one guy whose mastermind I joined, and I met Ray through Michael's programs. He was a teacher
Yeah.
inside the
I love
programs.
Ray.
Yeah, and I just tried to do the same thing. I just tried to be a good case study because I wasn't friends with these guys in the
Yeah.
beginning. I was just a client. I was a student, right? But I was okay with that. I understood our role in our relationship.
Sure.
And year after year, as we grew, and his business grew, and Michael's business grew, and my business grew, I just tried to do things that would elevate them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks are so stingy when it comes to their influence or to their platforms. And I think about it like this to trace back to the little campfire analogy. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. You ever notice that?
Yeah. That's
Doesn't.
right.
So I just tried to do that over time and just get really good at what I did and make myself recommendable.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly those relationships started to change and evolve. Some evolved more than others. Some stayed as just purely professional colleagues, others blossomed into friendships. And yet, when it was my turn to ask them for a favor, they all said yes. Not a single person I asked to endorse my book said no. They all said yes. And everybody in this book who endorsed it, a professional colleague who endorsed it, they were all relationships that I formed in this manner over years.
Right.
I don't share this in the book either, but I just want to share this because these are all kingdom principles, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's kingdom
Yeah.
principles. Um, there's another influential guy online, Pat Flynn, and Pat and I are friends. We're not super. We don't text every day. We're not like that. But people ask, how do you guys know each other? Like, how'd you get to hang out and stuff like that? I was like, he's just a person. And one time I saw him at a conference. I was walking downstairs. The conference was over. The poor guy was cleaning up his whole booth by himself. Like he had
Oh,
a products booth. I was like, we had met at a couple of different conferences, so he knew who I was. And I don't think at any point in my life,
oops. Did we freeze?
am I still here?
Yeah, you're here now.
Okay.
You thought at any
Well,
point, you
yeah,
met
let me
Pat
start that
Flynn?
again.
Yeah.
So you do. So at no point did I ever make him feel I was wanting to get to know him simply because he had a big audience or because he was some high profile person. I just saw a person who was cleaning up his booth by himself. I was like, "Do you need a hand?" He's like, "Sure. Can you?" Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. And I think he was probably, this is years ago. He's probably still wondering, like, is he going to just ask me like be on my podcast or something?
Right.
And I was like, no, no. And I did that so many times with him. He eventually felt like safe, you know? And I was like, what are you doing after this? You heading home? He's like, no, I'm going to go buy something for my kid before I head back on the plane. I was like, if you want some company, I can hang with you. If not, no worries, man. It's good to see you. Just chill like a normal person.
Yeah.
And we went shopping. It's fun. We talked a lot and got to know each other a lot. And other folks will say, "Oh my gosh, I would have paid $5,000 for an hour of one-on-one with a guy like him." I just went shopping with him because I
Right.
helped him clean his table, and it's just little things like that that I did over the years. And I want to emphasize years.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Keller has this great quote. He's the guy who founded Keller Williams. Success is sequential, not simultaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And we see folks like this and we just think that boom, it just all dropped in their lap one day.
Right.
And nothing works. Even God took 7 days to create the
Mm-hmm.
universe, right? It doesn't just drop in overnight. So I that's really how I built the network over years. And
And
there's more strategies that I share in the book, but it is probably my favorite chapter of the book because no one else talks about this kind of
right.
stuff.
And
Yeah.
it's you would understand this. It's just looking at life or your day as a way to plant seeds, to serve, to help, and it comes back to you. It doesn't. It's not like something that you're giving up. And even in relationships, they say it's give and take. It's all give. If both give, you're fine.
Mhm.
So really serving people, helping people. If we saw somebody struggling by themselves, putting down a booth and we had the time, why not help somebody if they're carrying something heavy? Why not hold the door for someone? So I love how you shared that. And that is, I think sometimes people want to take advantage sometimes of people and nobody wants to do that to anyone. That's not honoring them. So anyway, we're almost running out of time. So would love to talk about the book. You've got so many bonuses, so much going on. How can people access the book? Let's talk about the book.
Yeah, you can grab it at youarethebrandbook.com. It's going to be available on all retailers, so you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and stuff like that. But if you're looking for like all the information, where all the links are, it's super simple. Just go to youarethebrandbook.com. And if you send us your receipt, we're going to send you all these bonuses that go along with the book. First, you had mentioned, Marissa, there's a ton of templates inside the book. So we've curated all those, and I'm going to just email them out to you as Microsoft Word or Apple Pages files so you can actually use them. I hate when people sell you templates or send you templates and it's in a PDF and you can't copy and paste it. It's so clunky, right? All the formatting gets janky. So, so all that's there, but then we have a bunch of bonuses that come along with the book that I've thought through in order to make like jelly to the peanut butter that is the book.
Mhm.
So there's a bonus magazine featuring stories of other people, not just me, other people who have made the leap into full time uh, business as an expert speaker, coach, trainer, you name it. There's a bonus on how my workflows are set up and how I manage clients. Like, because work can get away from you, how you manage your one on one and mastermind groups, payments, all that sort of stuff. There's a bonus on intellectual property, protecting your intellectual property and
Hmm.
protecting yourself from cybersecurity hacks. Because once you put yourself out there, social media, websites, podcasting, there's a lot of stuff that you're exposing if you're not careful. So
Yeah.
I asked one of my friends who used to be an FBI interrogator and a cybersecurity expert to come share some of his tips with us. There's a bonus on how I wrote the book, like what
Hmm.
my framing of the material was, like how I titled the chapters and so on and so forth, and baked the marketing into the book. And so these bonuses really are like complementary to everything that's in the book that I couldn't fit in because it'd be so much.
Right.
And so we're just leaving those bonuses open for anyone at any time who buys the book and sends us a receipt, just so we know where to send everything to. We didn't want people just to be able to download it without buying the book, obviously. So that's
Right.
why we're doing that. But yeah, all the details are at you'rethebrandbook.com
I
and you can
love
grab
it.
it
And
right
I
there.
think there's
Yeah.
actually a sample chapter in there. I looked this morning and I saw a sample chapter in there and it showed the blueprint.
Yep. Yeah.
So
We
that's
put it right
awesome.
there. Yeah. So you don't have to download anything. You just read it right off the site. I just try to make things easy. And, we had touched a little bit before, Marissa, on, relationships are rocket ships. And this is the big idea of the book. Marketing isn't about closing a sale, it's about opening a relationship. So make things easy. Nobody likes trying to build a relationship with someone who's sketchy or dodgy or doesn't text you back, and
Hmm.
it takes forever to reply and makes you jump through all these hurdles. That's never any fun. I just try to make things easy, simple, straightforward. Don't insult people's intelligence. and just make it available and easy for them. So that's what
Yeah,
we've tried to
I
do.
love that quote. That's one of the quotes that you shared in Franklin in 2019. And I knew you were focused on relationship on people. It's just something about you when you were speaking. It really is a people business. You have to care about relationships and the people that you serve to bring that level of integrity and so forth. And you see a lot of things online, but there's still a lot of great entrepreneurs that really truly want to be online to serve and create positive change online. So I think that's awesome. So everybody, here you are. You can grab this book at youarethebrandbook.com. You can go there and there's lots of bonuses. So you want to grab the bonuses by buying the book. And let's see, you've got even the sample chapter that people can check out with the 8-step brand blueprint. So there's lots there. Anything else you want to share, Mike, before we say goodbye?
I would just say to you, the listener, you're listening for a reason. And it's probably because you have a dream inside you. And just continue to do the work, continue to become the person that you're trying to sell to people. The opening chapter of the book is titled, Who Do You Have to Become in Order to Serve the People You Want to Serve? And that's the question I posed to you today, and encourage you to chew on that answer. Because as you do, and as you move towards those answers, you eventually become that person. So remember, you are the brand.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I know you're going to get so much value from the book. So I'll have the link in the show notes so you can access the book and start creating your brand message. Thank you, Mike.
My pleasure.
If you found this podcast helpful, then subscribe from wherever you're listening today so you never miss an episode. Every subscription, review, or rating means so much to me, so keep them coming and share this with a friend. For more free content, go to marissashadrick.com. And remember, keep cultivating resilient faith online to create positive change in the world.